Alright, this is the recording for Steins Gate Zero. So, the reason I am reviewing Steins Gate Zero first is because I did it in the recommended watch order. That watch order is Steins Gate Episode 1 to 22, then divide by 0 23B into Steins Gate 0 to the end of Steins Gate, hence why this review is being done first. Several of the episodes towards the end really served some great emotional content that pushed the narrative and characters forward to the conclusion. Even its OVA got me emotionally several times, despite me expecting it to be just light and fluffy. I really underestimated how I would feel about the OVA. I thought it was going to be just a little side story, but it ended up being an actually really touching episode as well. So the latter half of this and the OVA are really good. This is a 2-quarter series, which could be hard to follow if you were not invested in the original series parts. As I was saying, especially the early parts of it, there's really not a ton happening narratively. It has the same standard animation for the main series, with some good stylization here and there, and the overall washed out sort of design over everything. So there are 2 OPs and 2 EDs for this. The first OP is Fatima by Kanako Ito. That one ends up being a very good one. The second core, it was the same song, but the lyrics were from the latter half of the song. There are 2 separate EDs. The first was a decent ED called The Last Game by Zwei. The second one was called World Line by Asami Imai, which is the voice actor of Makise Kurisu. I like the beat of this one, but both visually and lyrically I didn't consider this one very strong. As usual, the soundtrack is amazing and super strong. The use of insert music is the same with the main series, with lots of violin, piano, string quartet usage. The artists responsible are Takeshi Abo, Ito Kaneko, Moe Hyoga, Zwei, Nobuaki Nobusawa, Asami Imai, Eri Sasaki, with the song sung by Kana Hanazawa and Megumi Han being in character as Mayuri Shina and Kaguri Shina, respectively. The setting's mostly in Akihabara, with many of the locations featured being from there, and then there's also labs and various apartments that are featured as well. Worth mentioning, there's also a future timeline present at some parts of the series. There's a return of the main cast and additional characters added, such as Hyajo Maho and Leskinen Alexis, and they are featured in very prominent roles. Amane Yuki, Kurashima Kade, and Nakase Katsumi in supporting roles. The character designs are quite varied. A lot of the characters are not out there design-wise, so they have a hint of realism to them. Just like with the main series, there's amazing voice acting and range. The voice acting to me tends to be one of the stronger points with the series. There are funny moments here and there, and they're mostly there to provide levity to the overall seriousness of the story. Especially past the midpoint, there's a lot of tense moments in the narrative, much like in the latter half of Steins Gate. Much like in the main series, there are some concepts that are conceptually horrific or seem impossible to diffuse. There's more of an existential sort of horror to the series. Some of the through lines of romance that started in the main series continue to grow in the characters in this series, as well as romance budding with some of the characters in the narrative shown here. For the conclusion of the story, there's an amazing conclusion to this overall narrative, largely bringing it back to the basics in a very satisfying way. For the overall story, I would say that there's very little time travel happening in this arc, and it is only partway through that the narrative really starts to pick up. Until then, it's very slice of life. So largely focused on slice of life type antics, but it really concludes very excellently. Highly recommend this one. I think for some people that don't really care for a slice of life series, this might not really gel for you. But the main series is very light on that, and so therefore is heavily recommended. This one is more of up to your personal preferences.
あなたは信じられますか？